Hi, my name is Elise Erarts. I'm from Belgium. I'm currently based in the Netherlands as a participant of the Jan van Eyck Academy. I'm going to talk about a few of my works in this video. My works are usually experimental and often site-specific, but some of my works revolve around soil, ceramics, clay, and I'm going to focus on these works. The first work I would like to talk about is Bumbo. It's a work which consists of video and ceramics. The video is about 22 minutes long, and it shows the whole process of how a series of sculptures was made. These sculptures were made in Senegal together with local craftswomen. It was a participatory, collaborative process through which ceramic objects were jointly created. An important part of the video is that it shows the whole making of process, including the parts where raw materials come from nature and it's shown how they're processed, where they come from. For instance, the weeds, the dung, the soil itself, the clay soil, all these things are collected. And at the end of the video you see how the ceramics are burned, how they are fire hardened in the landscape through this traditional technique. The word bumbo means the beginning or the foundation of a pot. Specifically, it means the beginning of a pot which is produced by use of a mold. The ceramic series was a collaborative process with the local craftswomen, and each of us would make parts of one object through our own methods. So I would work with a mold of a geometric and modular shape, and they would work with more organic shapes, and together these objects showed a lot of contrast because of the different ways they were made, but also because of the different techniques we were using. But it was nice to see how these objects came together. Another project is called Burning Mass. Like the previous project, it's a video and a sculpture. The sculpture is site-specific and it's been created in Belgium, and it uses the traditional method of a brick clamp. So in order to make the bricks, they were also made by using a mold. They were made one by one through a manual method, and in total we had like more than 1,000. Then after the bricks had been made, they had to dry, and then after being dry, they were fired in the landscape through this traditional technique. In order to make this sculpture, we had the support of a brickmaker who knew the traditional technique together with his father. They, because these traditional techniques can be very, very specific, and you really need know-how through experience in order to make a sculpture like this or to use this kind of technique. It was very beautiful to see the work being fired in the landscape, and it was fired in the same location as where the soil was sourced in order to make the bricks. Then at the end you had some parts from the outside shell of the brick clamp which would fall apart, like some parts would deteriorate and they would just go back to the soil and be recycled there. And other parts were very hard because of the heat differences. There were different colors. Some shapes would also deform a little bit because of extreme heat in some places and less heat in other places. But the core part of the sculpture was so hot that it melted together. And in exhibitions, I usually show the video as well as this big chunk of bricks. Also, most of the sculpture consisted of individual bricks. These bricks are modular, so they can be placed together in order to make a wall or any possible shape. The work Burning Mass originated from visiting the brickmaker several years ago. When I went there for the first time and I saw this huge clamp with bricks, I was really struck by seeing such a big mass of bricks together. I also didn't know at the time what it was used for, or I had no knowledge at all about this creation method. And then when I was informed about why it was put that way and why when I knew what the method was about, it stuck with me for a long time, because I think when there's something that you are not familiar with, and especially when it's so big in scale, it can really have a lasting impression. And that's why finally I decided to make the work Burning Mass. The next project I'm going to talk about is called Surfaces. I have one module here from this work. This particular module has been executed in another color than the original, because the original was black. So this is a variation on the project surfaces. Surfaces was an installation which was mostly comprised of units in porcelain, in plaster and in print. The reason why I got interested in porcelain is because doing a kind of marbling technique, I thought the material could be quite deceiving, so you wouldn't immediately recognize the precise material. Then I also started to take to photograph or to scan very small fragments and enlarge them in print. So that's also how this installation was kind of inspired on the marbling technique, which refers to marble. And marble, in churches and so on, you can see huge pieces of marble that are incorporated in the architecture. But then in neoclassicism, a lot of these surfaces were made in a fake way. So they made marble imitations by using plaster or by using paint. And when I went into these kind of churches, I thought the approach to the material and also how the role of the surface plays how the role of the surface can be questioned, because the overlap between, for instance, the stability of the church or like the role of the element, a fake column doesn't play the same role as a real column. So I found in these neoclassicist buildings that it's very fascinating how these things come together and how they are not what they seem. So that's the inspiration for this work. So surfaces, a part of the installation is made of porcelain, and I thought it's interesting in comparison to previous ceramics that I used, because porcelain seems to be a more fine and more advanced technique of ceramics. You also need a much higher temperature. So to really gradually dive deeper into ceramics. Then the shape of these objects are modular, so actually they're the same shape as that is used in burning mass, and so they go together like this. Surfaces, the name surfaces and the concept behind surfaces relating to neoclassicism also refers to a more general limitation of our perception as human beings. We are confronted, when looking around us, we are confronted with surfaces. So, for instance, this is a surface. We can't see through the core of the material. We cannot see if this is full or hollow if we just see it this way, for instance. So we're always limited of, even if we have a massive block of marble and we know that it is real marble, we're just, the only thing we can really distinguish is the surface, and then putting it together with feeling the weight and so on. We kind of puzzle in our head what something is. But I think in sculpture and in being a visual artist, because I have to, especially with ceramics, I have to know the material, I have to process it myself. So I do get knowledge about what things are made of. The next project is called Recursive Volumes. Recursive Volumes is a project from last year, so 2018. It consists of a video and sculptures. It was produced in France at the Atelier Calder. The sculptures, I have some scale models here. So this is their shape. The sculptures consist of a series of smaller sculptures which are about this big, and then there's also a larger spatial sculpture which is 10 times bigger, so it's like it has the size of a space and you can actually go inside of it. The larger sculpture has an opening, and all the sculptures were made out of clay. The smaller sculptures were fire hardened inside the shell of the larger sculpture, through which the larger sculpture itself was also fire hardened. This process took place in the landscape, and the firing process is documented by photograph and video. The firing process took place for long periods, so it was day and night per session, 1 day and 1 night per session. In the video you can see where the clay was sourced, which was a local clay quarry very close to the residency where the work was produced. And in the clay quarry, which is filmed in the video, you see the clay in its natural condition in the landscape, and you see also in the video the working process in order to make the large sculpture from clay, which is a very direct method to create something. So you see the raw material being converted into a final object. In this project, not only the material and the process is important, but also the shape of these objects. Because you have the object in two different scales, I question how we project meanings onto objects through their size. And in the work itself, you also see the large sculpture containing the smaller sculptures while they are being fire hardened. So seeing both together also creates this image where a scaling operation could occur infinitely. The last project I'm showing you is called Ritual Reality. It's also a project from last year. It's comprised of photographs as well as a site-specific sculpture which was made for the space where it was exhibited, which is also in France. This is the flyer from the exhibition, and here you see Ritual Reality, and in the background you see recursive volumes, which was also exhibited in the same place. This project, however, was really made for that particular space because the space contained empty spaces under the floor level of the exhibition, which are usually covered by wooden boards. But I opened them again and integrated this work, which is also made of soil that had been fire hardened. So these parts had been fired outdoors in the proximity of the exhibition space, and then they were transported into those empty holes. So the way this project was made is also documented, and in the exhibition it's being shown through photographs. You can see in those photographs how each sculpture is made out of two halves, and those two halves contain soil and wooden beams which are stacked, and you see the firing process of those wooden beams. After they have been burned completely, the ceramic substance is, or the soil has been vitrified in all the edges, and then the work had been put back into the space to be exhibited in those negative spaces. They have been surrounded by the same kind of soil which has been used to make those sculptures in the first place. So you see a deconstruction of the raw material, the source material, and then the processed material in the sculpture itself.